I would like to call to order the September 28th, 2020 regular meeting of the Tipp City Board of Education, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whenever you're ready for the roll, Dave.
Okay. President Dunaway.
Present.
Vice President Dahl is absent this evening. Mrs. Heatherly.
Here.
Mr. Patrick.
Here.
Mrs. Accord.
Here.
We do have a quorum this evening, Madam President.
Great. So first, we're going to do an approval of the consent agenda. Did I do that right, Mr. Stefanik? It's our first time doing this. You did this in Carrizo.
Right.
Is that how I stated?
Well, it's approval of the entire agenda.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
just look at it, and so you look at the way the agenda is laid out. Most of the time,
So
the
this-
other items stay put, and people just focus on the consent agenda.
Mhm.
It's any agenda item. Yes.
So this is new for the Tipp City Board of Education. It's our first time trying it. We're going to do with the consent agenda, and we're going to kind of rely on you because you did this in your previous district.
Okay.
And it was something that we all thought we would try.
Okay.
So all of,
Previous 3 districts.
oh, I didn't know that. Awesome. I know when I watched your meetings, that was one thing that I really, really liked about how your meetings went. Okay, so we just walk us through that again, and then I'll explain it a little more as we get down to the consent part.
Well, you can look at the agenda set up the same way as it typically is at the top.
Mhm.
You got item 2, item 3, item 4, citizens comments, TCA comments, item 5, president's comments, treasurer's report, old business, and then you get to the first part of new business, which is consent agenda items. Typically, what goes in consent agenda items, you see there, you have meeting minutes, possibly retirement notices or resignations, things that have most of the time little conversation, and it's pretty much you call it up, you call the roll, and you have the vote, and they move on. So what a consent agenda allows you to do is look at a group of items, and the board did it unofficially about
Correct.
three meetings ago.
That's right.
You took 6 or 7 items and grouped them together and just took one vote, and it covers all the items that are under that consent agenda listing. But at this point, when you're in the approval of the agenda, if there's something in there that somebody believes needs further discussion before a vote, then you just ask for that item to be a standalone item and come out of the consent agenda. If there aren't any suggestions, then the agenda stays as it is, and you continue on with your meeting.
Great. Thank you for that.
And just to also note, Board Docs is set up that one vote will approve all of them automatically, and each one will show the vote on each item individually that was taken for that one consent agenda item. And it will also approve the minutes with one vote and make them live to the public. So it's a one fell swoop.
Yeah, and I know you were working with Board Docs to set this up.
Yeah.
I just had the one question where it says new business, and it says consent agenda items.
Mhm.
Then A says consent agenda. Is that okay for that to be there?
We're going to approve that there to approve those consent items, and then it'll approve B through Q in one fell swoop.
Okay.
I said that twice, and anyway. So
Very good.
So then the question would be, are there any items in the agenda right now that we feel need to be moved?
Yes, we're going, sorry to interrupt, we're going to move the TCEA comments to 4 and the citizen comments to 5. I'm just going to flip those if you don't mind.
Any other items?
We're good.
Okay. Mark, did they usually vote on the approval of the agenda?
Great question. I don't think it would hurt.
Okay,
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
the amended agenda?
Oh, amended.
I'll move to approve the agenda, the amended agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded by Heatherly and Zakor.
Zakor. Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
great, motion carries. Okay, that takes us to our committee reports, and Mr. Gilmore has submitted his minutes, so they are available for anybody to read under that section. Does any board member want to comment on that? No? Okay, great.
I do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ann.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Gilmore. His notes are so informative, concise. I just really appreciate the way he organizes that and gets to the heart of things and just value his representation.
He does a fantastic job. I'd have to agree with that. Okay, Mr. Stefanik, that moves us to superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. In the superintendent's report, we got a couple of updates for the board, and I'll ask for Mr. Veerhoff to keep me on task. And I'm complete enough with the information that I'm sharing to the board. First of all, something that seems to be exciting for our students, we'll give you a lunch update. We've got some federal programs that have been instituted from now until December 31st. And Mr. Veerhoff, does the pick 3 option, is that on that same timeline or does it go?
Yes.
Same timeline? Okay. So 2 programs that go until December 31st on school days. So once we get to the holiday break at Christmas time, we don't have to continue providing lunches. But what it allows any student, regardless of classification, from eating a school lunch, and we get reimbursed for every lunch that is sold. Typically, the lunch program just reimburses for students that are classified as free or reduced lunch families, but this covers any student that wants a lunch in the cafeteria. And it also includes, and we've offered it to, our PLP families and our quarantine student families. So we've got a little delivery service out there with, we'll call them recyclable grocery bags is what they look like to me, canvas bags, and we deliver a 5-pack lunch kit to those households once a week. And then we trade out the bags the following week and give them a new bag, and then let the other bags come back for airing out and disinfecting purposes. But a new program just this week.
We found out last Thursday.
Just this week, for students that are traditionally, we call them packers, that they bring their lunch from home. If they see something in the lunch line that excites them, they can go up, and if they pick 3 items, so figure a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk, they go up there to go along with the PB&J and the lunch bag. That qualifies as a federal lunch, and we get reimbursement for that as well. So the students can go up there. When they do that, those aren't considered a la carte, correct? They're not considered a la carte items, so the students just grab 3 items. That's part of the free lunch program. And so if you have students that they love their lunch, they can eat their packed lunch from home and get a couple of extras from the cafeteria as well. We're seeing lunch participation go up in every building. Our delivery service, it's not huge, but it's
92 lunch kits were delivered today.
Okay.
We've doubled our service in every building except the high school, where we've tripled our lunch service.
So it's going over well, and on the financial side of things, it looks like the district could get reimbursements in excess of
For the 3 months that we participate in this program, September, October, November, and part of December. So 3 months, if you count the half of September we didn't do and the half of December we will, I'm estimating about $200,000 in federal reimbursement for that. And that doesn't include any activity we would have in the second part of the school year. So if we go back to normal free and reduced lunch, so it should be good for our food service program to help us become profitable. Hopefully.
So what does that 200,000 look like after you pay for the food bills?
I don't have it all down yet. I'm just hoping to be able to reimburse the general fund for the money that we've advanced this year to help the food service program. Normally, it's a losing enterprise, and this year I'd like to see us break even or come out on top. So this can help us get there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So food can be exciting and fun. And so for those that really like the lunches and we get reimbursement from the federal government, it's all good. Second item at your tables tonight, we gave you a draft. We continue to try to provide visuals and information sheets for our parents to try to be more clear on what we're trying to do with illness screenings. This draft, we just got it in presentable form today, so we're not asking you to sit here at this board meeting and review it all. But if you have some time to review it this week, give us any feedback. Oh, excuse me. This is for this one. I'm sorry. This is for
This one.
and this one first. Yeah. So if you have any feedback on that, and if it seems to be clear, then we can put that on our website, and parents can use that as a reference document. Mr. Veerhoff, anything else on that?
I think we're planning to send this home in hard copy as well, just to really put out there the flow of how these procedures are going to work, so that parents are just more aware of what we've spelled out in our restart plan and has been pushed out by Miami County Public Health.
So thank you to the nurses for providing input on this plan, and then Miami County Public Health in less than a day. We sent it up there for their review and made sure that we were in line with the recommendations of the health department, and they sent it back. So again, whether you have content suggestions or whether the flow, the way it's presented in its boxed format, if you have any suggestions on that to make it easier to read and follow, please let us know, and we'll try to get the updated guidelines out on the website by the end of the week.
So would there be any way to speak to the issue of being considered truant or excessively absent for those students who have been exposed and who are staying home? As well as, are there any guidelines that can be published on the website or instructions provided for how students make up their missed work?
Yes.
And whose responsibility is it to initiate that? Is it the student, the parent, the teacher? Is it coordinated among all teachers for the student? If you want to take the time and address it now, that's fine, but I think the suggestion is that those are lingering questions that are, at least that I've received so far.
Well, one piece that I can share with you is that we received updated guidance from Ohio Department of Education. And when we submitted our remote learning plan, our mindset when we submitted the remote learning plan was, if the governor would say your school district has to close, or this school has to close, then you kick into the remote learning plan. According to guidance from Ohio Department of Education, any pocket of students that are absent qualify for what they consider to be remote learning, and each district defines that to meet the needs of its students. But when they're in remote learning, our remote learning plan says completion of activities or assignments, participation in any Google Meeting format, or participation for a live feed, into the classroom or into the school. If you do that, you're not considered absent for that day on quarantine. So you're considered to be present if you're getting the work completed. And so the option of excessive absences because you're on quarantine, it doesn't have to be a guarantee. As long as you're engaged in learning activities, you can get listed as being present. Now, with that being said, all attendance is categorized by time, not by days. So it's categorized in hours. So if somebody gets an assignment and in that teacher's classroom, the teacher believes that the assignment would last 45 minutes, all right? We have several of us in the room here. It's very possible that all of us would have a different amount of time to complete that task. The more gifted people or people that's their favorite content area, you might get finished in 20 minutes. Somebody else that struggles a little bit with it might take you 50, 55, 60 minutes. What you get is you get the average amount of time that was assigned by the teacher or what they would consider an average person. So the speedy workers, as long as they're accurate, they would get a little bit more time in their account for the assignments being completed. And somebody that needs a little bit more follow-up and support, they might put an hour in, but they would only get 45 minutes, put on their chart. But you get credit for everything that you work on, and we'll get that sent out there so that it's clear about attendance. Now, again, if all these offers come from the school on opportunities to participate, and the child doesn't participate, then the child gets marked down as an absence, and then makeup work just rolls to the typical makeup work policy for attendance.
I think maybe those guidelines need to be communicated, because is that the student's responsibility to keep that log and then turn that in upon return with the doctor's note that they're cleared to return? I'm not asking for the answer now. I'm just suggesting that
With all the clarity.
who's supposed to initiate that? And if a student communicates that to their chemistry teacher, does the chemistry teacher then tell the attendance person that has been, that those 45 minutes were credited towards the person's absence? Seems like there's a lot of gray area there.
Yeah, and it is. It's a new procedure, and so we'll get all that ironed out. But as the work comes in, it does have to get down to the attendance folks and the counselors to make sure that the records are accurate. But it would not be the student's responsibility to do that. It would be the staff's responsibility to take care of that.
Well, I think it's already sort of stressful if somebody's, choosing to quarantine because of an exposure maybe to, a sibling or a parent and so then, the statement of now you're going to be held truant, I think just adds additional stress that we could probably alleviate by communicating what the process and procedures would be.
Very good. I have it written down as extra pieces that need to be clarified.
Mr. Stefanik, did we also clear up the point of we learned a lot when that first group of kids got quarantined. Obviously, that always happens, right? Initially, we had the students contact the teachers. So is it now officially changed where the principal, reaches out to the teacher so that burden isn't put on the student?
Yeah.
Fix that? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
there's going to be school contact
Perfect.
of several types to make sure that the students know, what is expected of them.
Thank you.
And actually what we had, you bring that up, we actually had a variety of things going on at the beginning. We had some buildings that were notifying parents right out of the gate, and other ones were saying, student, you notify your teachers that you're on the quarantine list, and then they'll provide whatever you need. And so we're going to get it that we provide the support to the family.
I think that's better. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Are the ODE guidelines or the rules related to the remote learning directly tied to quarantine, or do they also apply to those families that say, well, I've got two of the symptoms, and so I'm going to stay home until I get, they're being responsible. I'm going to stay home and get a test, or I'm going to go see the doctor and get a recommendation for a test or no test. Would that apply for remote learning? And then, okay,
I would say anything related to COVID, it's not clear yet if somebody, comes up with something that we're more used to, like strep throat. If now the parameters are any extended absence, can qualify for the remote learning. Right now, our understanding is these are special guidelines put in place for COVID. It might be the future, of education for all the other illnesses, but right now it's, there are COVID exceptions, for additional learning opportunity.
just from personal experience, one of the things I would suggest that is considered is the delivery of the schoolwork that needs to be completed, whether it's in person or electronically through email to a parent, things like that. I would suggest several options, because if you get, let's say you've got a whole family that's quarantined, they can't necessarily walk into the school to pick up the work.
Right.
So what would you suggest to help offset that, Simon?
I'd suggest they consider it and come up with a solution. I'm not going to try to figure it out for them. I don't know their job well enough.
It's a good point. Yeah, nobody's allowed in.
Right.
Of course, maybe you could do it something like Taco Bell. They put all of it in a sack and hand it through the window, and you take your sack and.
Well, we've done some deliveries of that kind.
Yeah.
Where, everything is passed across a longer table or through the breezeway, at the school, and that's the way you safely hand off from one person to another. That's what we're doing with the lunches. We don't go out and get the exact bag, it's at the house, bring it back to the van and then load it up with the thing. We have a new bag, for that week. Our parents choose to use bag out there. We pick that up with gloves, put that in the storage thing, bring it back, and we take care of sterilizing that for the third week that we're using it. So we're coming up with new ideas to try to be as safe as we possibly can.
I experienced some of that with Broadway, and with dropping stuff off, and I would compliment that entire building. We were doing an excellent job.
You have good thoughts about that building, I'm assuming?
Yes,
Okay.
for my own home at this point, as
Yeah.
sub in the room, but yes.
Yes.
So also, Mr. Stefanik, I wanted to ask you on this chart, the last one, exposure, quarantine 14 days.
Yes.
Have you heard talk about the governor maybe changing that to align with CDC? I think, isn't there's 10 days?
Well, there's a 10-day and there's a 14-day.
CDC.
Everybody.
Okay.
10 days, and we look at these charts a lot, but 10 days is for somebody who actually tests positive. So if you actually get a positive test, you've already got it. And so you don't have to wait the 14 days to see if it's going to mature.
Exposed,
If you got exposed to it, if that's actually going to, turn into the actual virus. So the person that has tested positive, they have to continue to monitor symptoms, but they will be out for a minimum of 10 days. That's where the 10-day piece comes in. Anybody that's on the quarantine list, you've got 14 days because it's got a 14-day, I'm losing the word. Incubation period, yeah. So you've got 14 days. When people hear about that, it kind of creates some emotions, because the person that had the initial infection, the chances are that they'll be back in school before some of the people that are on quarantine. And it's caused some feelings of, that's not fair. My child wasn't the one that had the virus at school, and the one with the virus could be back, in school before my child who's sitting on quarantine. But they have to wait for that span of time, because it could be on the 13 and a half day that all of a sudden the virus, kicks in for your child. And if they would have come back to school earlier than that, then it would have created another health issue. So the 14 days is there. The one thing that is being discussed often with the state health department is to provide some leniency on the quarantine list. And so it would be providing more credit, if you will, or recognition of the fact that folks are wearing masks. There is a medical recommendation, and I can't remember if it's from American Association of Pediatrics, but it's if you have 6 feet, or excuse me, 3 feet.
3 feet, 2 barriers.
3 feet and 2 barriers, that's supposed to be the equivalent of 6 feet and no barriers. And so in our schools that don't have the desks, because we don't have the room to have all the desks 6 feet apart, right now, if somebody tests positive, there are several students inside that 6-foot circle because the desks aren't spread out 6 feet apart because we end up and run out of square footage in the classroom. At 3 feet and 2 barriers, 1 mask, 2 masks, Simon and I wouldn't be in the quarantine list. And so when we took one of our lists and looked at that, one of our lists went down from 22 students to 3.
Big difference.
And so that would be a huge difference for student attendance, student participation at school, and many, from what I understand, many health departments are telling the state health department that is a legitimate consideration. But to date, they have not revised that quarantine protocol yet. So we're still doing that. If you want to write your legislators, and get that across, that could help student attendance quite a bit.
And the quarantine list, that's out of our hands. It's the health department that decides it, correct?
Yes, the final decision. We give them preliminary information, and then they finalize it. Some of the things that have caused some uneasiness with families and some emotion is what occurs outside the school hours. And so they're monitoring student activities, whether they be in youth sports and recreation activities, or whether they're just in social type activities. They're tracking, who's with their friends outside of school, and whether or not they're together for longer than 15 minutes at different places, how close together they are, and they make those decisions. And we've had some conflicts because we've had some conflicting stories when students have different recollections of what occurred in those recreational or social settings. And so then the health department has to make a decision. We've kind of tried to advocate for, if you can't make a definitive determination, can't you let people stay at school? And they're on the other side right now, which is we have to err on the side of safety. And so if they've got differing stories, then some of the people have ended up on the quarantine list. There is an appeals process. They will take phone calls and listen to parents express their version from what their child tells them occurred outside of school. But then when that final decision is made, it's not in the school's hands. It's actually the order that comes from the health department.
So can I just ask a clarifying question?
Mm-hmm.
Because the example that you gave is a real example.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, every experience we have is a learning experience. So in this situation that you just described, so from that, did we learn and were we able to possibly change our questions? Because asking Ann what she did after school on Friday is a lot different than saying, were people wearing masks, right?
Right.
So did we hone in on those questions?
Well, that's the thing.
Okay.
Those questioning processes weren't ours.
Okay,
Those were done through the health department.
Gotcha.
And the health department nurses or COVID department representatives, I'll call them, because they've had some people designated specifically to take care of COVID questions and this contact tracing. They were doing all the questions, and then they told us this is what we found out. So it didn't fall on the schools or the school offices to do those questions with the student.
But the student has to come forward and say, you know, I walked to Arby's Friday after school with these 10 people. So I guess that's my confusion. So we do start the list. No, we don't? Well, then how do we know?
It's the first,
Do they have cameras everywhere? I guess I'm confused.
Yeah, you've seen the lights downtown. They're all on their own cameras.
I don't understand how we get that.
When the health department makes a confirmation, a contact, either off of a positive case
Right.
or a quarantine call, they start interviewing the parents and or the students.
Right. That's my question.
But that's the health department. That's not the school office.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all I
Yeah.
need. Thank you. That's what I
And
need.
so they do all an investigative questioning, and then what we ran into with this situation
Right.
is we had middle school students that had different recollections about who was where, when, and the health department had to try to sort all that out. And so that was them trying to take care of that, and then they notified us, this is what it looks like. The biggest issue was, and I don't know the exact number, but let's say that you have 8 students and they're going to do something. They're gonna go get ice cream, somewhere downtown. And so they're gonna walk downtown, and let's say they live right here across the street from the central office. They're walking down the sidewalk, and this is the conversation I had with the health department. If everybody stays in twos, and again, it's not a field trip, so we know they don't. But let's just say they do. So they stay in twos. The initial 2 people up here, and then the last 2 people back here, chances of them being within 6 feet are slim to none, going down a residential sidewalk. So they're cruising down the sidewalk. That didn't seem to be a big consideration. The consideration was they were in this group. So yeah, they may have been 10 feet apart while they're walking down the sidewalk, but they all ended up at the ice cream shop. So they all went inside.
Gotcha.
They were together for a little bit, and then they went somewhere else after the ice cream shop. So they started tracking minutes of the time they were together. And as it turned out, all 8 of them ended up being quarantined. Nobody got an excused a note on the quarantine from that group. And so that's the kind of stuff that the health department went through. We said, does outside versus inside mean anything? And we got into all those questions, and in the end, they all stayed on the quarantine list.
Okay.
We don't want anybody quarantined. We don't want anybody to miss school, but they're staying. I got to give them, they're being as consistent as they can with the protocols.
Perfect.
And so they're just carrying it out to the best of their abilities.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Is there anything else in your superintendent's report?
Last piece, sent in the Friday board update, we have a vetted computer use agreement that we're ready to send out to our secondary students. And if there aren't any other questions about that document that we sent, we will get it in electronic format, and we will start sending out to our middle school and high school students and PLP students tomorrow morning.
You talk about the Chromebook form?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes, the technology use form. Yes.
Have you thought about doing that with staff who might be working from home using board purchased equipment? Might be important to inventory that as well.
We can do that. We can do that as well. Yeah, it just so the board knows, anything we've handed out, it's got a code number on it, so we know who has what. And now we just have to make sure that everybody's aware of the expectations for taking care of the school district technology.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question before you go into, before we hit into superintendent's goals?
Sure.
Mrs. Junker, are you okay, or do you want to
No,
go
I'm-
before the
I'm
goals?
fine.
You're okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks for asking.
Okay. Superintendent's
I
goals?
was looking out of the corner of my eye here to see if you look.
Well, because we're doing goals, and she doesn't
Yeah.
realize how long this could take, so I didn't want her sitting there. Okay,
I fall over,
okay.
and you know
Just
it's been too.
raise your hand or sit there and let us know.
I believe everybody had these electronically, but we'll give them to you in paper form, so if you remember where you stored them electronically.
Hey, I brought mine.
Oh, you got
Look
it.
at there.
Nice, nice. With the superintendent goals, on the recommended site from the State Department, and it's with any goal set up, you want to make sure you don't list too many things, because then you're doing a few things halfway instead of really targeting some things that you want to see some movement on. And the two goals that are here, they actually were on the profile from the district that I received when I came and interviewed for the position. And both of these goals were in the top three of what the Board of Education had in their prioritized list. So the first one has to do with basically analyzing the current district vision and the activities and data tracking that goes around any of the improvement goals that you're working on that align with the district vision. So the plan there is to do a history of the current vision statement and strategic plan, and then look at what type of data gathering processes were in place to see if the strategic plan was being initiated and whether or not the vision of the district is still valid and current. Then audit any data that's out there, current, whether it be local data or whether it be data produced by the state, and determine next steps in the goal setting process. Find out what tools we use to gather data, whether they're state suggested tools or whether they're things that we put in place locally. And then, just as in any improvement process, you find out what you have, you set goals, you monitor if you're meeting the new goals, then you revise, set new goals, and then you assess the new goals and you continue the process over and over again. We set December 2020 as a target for this initial review and goal setting. And then, of course, we would monitor those throughout the rest of the school year and see how that process is working for school improvement across the district. The big thing is the word there is alignment, and you'll see that in the second goal as well, so that everybody is rowing in the same direction, and you have the younger buildings building up to prepare for the next building as students transition from building A to building B all the way up, so that the students that transition to the high school are ready to complete the high school program and get ready for life after their K through 12 experience. Second one is based on similar alignment, looking at right now the way individual buildings and the way the entire district operates, and looking at the organizational structure and the management practices, and again, at the district level and the building level. This would be done through interactions with the administrators, and they would basically outline the procedures and protocols that they have in place at each building, then look at all of those individual building protocols and see if they align with each other, and then see if they align with district expectations and district policies. We talked about the general policy review that we'll be going through to make sure that everything does align with current board policy. And then one piece that we put in here that was also in the district profile, find a way that we can create a new district organizational chart that addresses the needs in the areas of HR and student services. Again, student services, a new term, to address special needs students or special education and any of those support services that go along with that. That goal there, completion date would be May. There's a lot of things to review and assess. And so then the recommendation in May would be, hey, here are some possible changes that need to occur, as we get ready to venture into a new school year. As I said, these are in the district profile that I received. These are also traditional places to begin the transition process and then learn about a new school district if you're a new superintendent or administrator. And so they seem like good places to begin the school improvement process here in Tipp City.
I have a question, Mr. Stefani.
Okay.
You know, I'm a beginner at this still, so
Okay.
you've been doing this a long time. Is it correct that the board sets the vision with the superintendent and for the district, and then based on that vision, the superintendent designs the goals to help meet that? Would that be a correct statement?
I would say from my experience, it's close. What I have heard is that the board and the superintendent, or even the board and the district staff work together to create the vision for the district. So it's more of a teaming, type of activity. And again, there is a vision statement out there right now in a strategic plan. And so the evaluation of that plan could be done in a team format. That's what I'm used to.
Well, that's where I'm going to, because I don't recall, and I mean, I know there's been a lot going on in terms of a new superintendent coming in, and of course, COVID. I mean, it's just been,
Sure.
yeah, so we didn't do a vision discussion with you.
Right, not yet.
So how do we talk about goals when we haven't even discussed the vision?
We have an existing vision and mission that's part of our strategic plan that is overarching several years. And there are regular check-ins that we would expect to be on the agenda in a future meeting. I don't know at what points in the calendar year that you would put it, quarterly or semi-annually, with updates on how the district is meeting those 4 pillars and the goals associated within the pillars of the strategic plan.
And that's where the first one would come in, would be that we would have discussions about that strategic plan and whether or not this board still consider that strategic plan to be valid and that vision to be valid. If it's not, and we make revisions to that, then it's kind of like, I guess I would call it mid-year corrections.
Yes.
And so it's some things where, we can set goals now based on data that we have, but as we go in and set the vision for the future, if those goals need to be revised, then we can revise the goals to match up with any changes that are.
Because I don't know when those 4-pillar vision things were set, okay? But.
Mr. Veerhoff, if you remember how many years back those were set?
It's not that long ago.
That would have been.
19,
14, 19. We're
17,
starting,
18,
one more time.
17, 18, 18.
We're
19.
starting, it was a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And are we starting our 3rd year?
I think we are.
Yeah, we're just beginning our 3rd year.
Correct.
So,
Because I did look at that briefly, and I'll just be honest with you, I was not impressed because I didn't see a clear roadmap.
Okay.
To me, it seemed like a lot of fluffy writing about this, and it kind of left a lot up to the imagination of, who's reading that, and it's kind of some fancy words that were really not anchored to anything that's a SMART goal, and I just really like to see things that are specific, measurable,
Right.
achievable, results-oriented, and time-bound. To me, that's something that a goal takes on.
Yes.
And I didn't see really that.
Right.
And I know it was a very elaborate. I just kind of threw it aside, not threw it away, but I just threw it aside because it irritated me more than it did direct me.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, when do we have, because we have a new superintendent, we have new board members, we have a new culture with COVID. Do you, and from a realistic perspective, should we have this vision period, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, there was a discussion, and and I'm trying to remember if it was part of the interview process or if it was shortly thereafter, there was discussion about a board retreat type setup or a board work session, type of setup. And that can happen at one of those sessions. So if we would set a special meeting in October because it is October here shortly, if we would set it in October, or if folks thought that early November was early enough, we would sit down and then we would analyze all that together, and then we would go ahead and set the vision and the direction. And then again, the goals would be revised to match up with all that, because it's all about alignment. If you're sitting there and say, it's all about math achievement, and then none of the buildings have any goals that have anything to do with math achievement, you're not in alignment there. And so, you look at, again, if you want to call them pillars, or if you want to call them benchmarks, or whatever people are going after as far as the goals, the SMART goals. You have district-wide 50,000 foot goals, and then each building comes underneath and said, this is our part of that, and this is how we build that. And the 5 buildings put their pieces underneath that.
Okay.
So those things happen again, you can call them retreats, you can call them special meetings, work sessions, but those are the things that are 4, 5, 6 hour meetings to actually go through the whole visioning process.
Do you feel that something to that effect is warranted now, given the new superintendent, new board, new COVID, so you feel that it is warranted?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think, everybody's got, they said it was a 5-year plan, but with so many parts that have changed, and if you're 3 years in, it might be time to do a quick assessment at the 3-year mark and see if the last 2 years need to flow along the route that the previous board or previous administration has set.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ann said. It's very kind of loosey-goosey. It's a lot of buzzwords. There's no SMART goals. There's no deadlines. There's no accountability. There's no names attached. So if we are going to have a goal, typically there's like a name who's going to accomplish that. So I definitely agree with everything that Mrs. Zakor pointed out. I mean, being one of the board members that set that up, I agree. I think she's right.
And I'll do semantics, but I think it plays something in it. When you said, there's a name attached to it on who's going to get it accomplished. I think the goals that you set up, I don't think any one person can get it done. And so that person's name on there, that would be the facilitator for that goal.
Sure.
And so they're going to monitor it and make sure that goal stays in the forefront of people's minds and people's activities.
Okay.
Well, I like how you've indicated December 2020 as the targeted completion date. I think that would also be.
That was my idea, but we'll see if we can get there.
That was Corinne and Teresa. That was Mrs. Johnson.
Well, we have, a new era of education with COVID, which is sort of redefining how public school works under these circumstances. And we have new leadership, and we have new administrators in some of the schools. And so I would expect some bottom-up influence, some sort of information coming up to your level where those teams have reconvened and looked at that document, figured out what their building or work group goals are, so that then that information then is all compiled under you.
Yes.
As part of this December 2020. To me, that's the target of when we should probably meet, and where we may target doing a work session.
Retreat, I like that.
So I think it may be what I'm reading into your document, Mr. Stefanik, and so I think I would echo kind of Ann and Teresa's points, but I think based on my reading of this, that it's there. I think maybe some examples relate to looks like to me like the evidence of progress or completion to me makes sense from my perception of them.
Okay.
So like when I'm looking at your first one, it looks to me, if I was looking at this, the way I'm understanding it, without any specific examples below each line item, is that you're essentially coming in without any information You're gonna review what we've done in the past, such as strategic plans, data gatherings, processes, et cetera, how we're performing, what those things are. And then you're gonna look at those, assess and revise our processes as appropriate. That probably includes some collaboration with the Board of Education, so we can kind of set all that stuff up, understand those things, because I think it's there, but I agree with Ann that I'd like to see maybe just some more specific examples. Like, to me, one of the things that I know you're probably doing, but that I'd like to understand when and how it's going to be done is like maybe evaluating our performance in different subjects at different levels and all those types of things. So that when I'm looking at this, and I could be wrong, that's kind of what we're going to be doing through December 2020, so that then when we start 2021, after having collaborated with all the board and providing us some information of where you think we have some information, that we can move forward. I don't know if you have enough time to do that much in that time. I think you're essentially the CEO of this school district. I would suspect you need a lot more than that period of time with COVID to accomplish all that. But maybe a good place to start, though, is like Ann suggested, is with where are we on our 5-year plan? Do we need to make revisions? So that Joellen, before you go too far down one road that could end up you having a backtrack or something like that. That's my suggestion. I'll speak for the whole board, obviously.
I think to break down my statement is, I'd like to see a list of what your priorities are once you've gotten your arms around the district, and your prioritization based on what you've gleaned so far in your few months with us. And that to me should come to the board. That's what I think your first goal is. What are the list of priorities? And what is the priority of those priorities? What's the pecking order?
Okay.
And it will be interesting to see how that aligns with some of our visions.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, I like that. So can we just sort of set a little bit of a visionary target date for this, when we want to try to start gelling this together to have a better, whatever method we use, whether it's a retreat or another meeting, or when do we start trying to gel this revisitation of vision goals with the superintendent, or vision with the superintendent to help solidify goals? What's realistic for that, Mr. Stefanik? Because I
Well, like I
want to
said,
take your lead on what you
Yeah.
think is realistic,
Yeah,
given
well,
priorities.
I think with the different way that the school year started, with COVID and the extra, responsibilities that everybody's had to undertake, it's taken longer to just get out there and get a feel for all 5 buildings. I've got a feel for a couple of them, but I haven't had a chance to get a feel for all 5. And so if I would say at the earliest, if we could target the extra vision meeting for the end of October, early November, that would give me the next month to try to get more information about the other buildings that I don't have a firm grasp yet of exactly what they're doing. Plus, we're also beginning my meetings with principals that are part of the principal evaluation process, and so they'll be able to give me additional information about their buildings at those individual meetings. And I know the board meeting is typically at the end of October, so
Yeah.
I don't want you to have
But we have work
two
sessions.
meetings. Sure.
We have
sure.
work sessions in
Yeah.
between, so.
So I would say
That's a work
if
session.
you wanted to target maybe the November work session date, that might be a target date to have a potentially a little longer than normal work session, and we can turn it into the visioning activity.
Maybe we can do it over Thanksgiving.
Wait a minute, we don't,
I don't think we have a work session in November.
we don't. I was just checking. We don't have, you're right, Joellen.
I would rather this be thorough,
Right.
and
yes.
I'm in favor of waiting until December. I mean, it's an unusual school year.
Mhm.
You're a new superintendent. Under normal circumstances, it seems like it might take a while to get yourself established and get the meetings established. That means the principals have then had their meetings with their leadership, and they're establishing what their goals are and what they're identifying, what they're working on.
I'm with Joellen. I want it to be effective and thorough.
Yeah, we don't have
Not
anything in
just
November,
something
so-
that's lumped together.
I think I'm targeting December work session, if
Yeah.
there is
Do we
one.
have one in
I'm
there?
gonna put my phone. Why do we not? I thought we scheduled them for every month.
Well, I believe in November, we said we had capital
Right.
conference. so I
Yeah, and the
rescheduled
capital
that.
conference was canceled.
It's
And,
being done virtually.
well, I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah, virtually, that's right.
Traveling.
It's hard to pick up the post-it notes.
Wow. Well, the December board meeting is early because of Christmas break, so it's December 14th.
So should we?
So if we wanted to do a work session the week before the board meeting, it would be like the 7th or the 8th. That's a Monday.
Or we could just sort of hold that as a
Yeah.
placeholder to include it as a part of the agenda for the December meeting. Historically, now, of course, you can't figure this out with COVID this year, but historically, that agenda has been somewhat lighter.
Yeah. So Mr. Stefanik, do you think if we did a work session, if everyone can check their schedules, Tuesday, December 8th, since we don't have one in November, Capitol Conference is virtual, that kind of frees up 3 days for us who normally attend Capitol Conference.
So we're looking at
December 8th, what time can everybody be here? I know Joellen, you and Simon kind of set the start time because of your work schedules.
You don't think we can't use it part of the board meeting to achieve this, or does it?
I
need to be a
prefer to do it on
work
December
session?
8th. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want a 4-hour board meeting on December 14th.
I don't have my calendar with me.
Okay, that's okay.
And so if we're picking out dates, it could change. I would
Sure.
suggest we finalize that at a different meeting when I have everything with me. I wasn't anticipating having to schedule something today.
Well, how about if we do it this way? We go ahead, tentatively set December the 8th. If that doesn't work for you, Simon, then we can be flexible
Yeah, absolutely.
and bump it, whichever way we need to.
Right.
That's fine with me.
What time can, what's the earliest that you will get
6.
your son and Joellen?
6 p.m.
6, Joellen?
I can
You
come
be here
at
by
5.
6?
I can come at 5, but I can definitely be here by 6.
Okay.
I want to be respectful.
So right now we'll do Tuesday, December 8th at 6 o'clock for the work session, and I'll be sure to send Corinne an email. Well, Carrie usually sends us the
Well-
reminders.
Contingent upon Simon's schedule, that it works, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And again, just for informational purposes, to make sure everybody's clear, it wouldn't be a typical work session. It would be focused on this
Board vision.
Yeah.
data, vision,
Sure.
goals, those types of things. Okay. And then between now and then, we would also discuss, and that may end up impacting the venue. What involvement we have. I've had everything from the board and every administrator in the district, representation from the association, at the meeting. I've also had where it was a review of a previous plan where it was the board and the central office cabinet, if you will. And so we have to decide whether, we're in the realm of 20 to 25 people in work groups, doing this work, or if it's a smaller group of 10 to 15. So no need to make that decision tonight. We can decide, how we want to work that plan through, before we get to December the 8th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Still holding
I'm good.
up?
Poor Heather.
I'm good.
So I don't think you can slouch with that.
No, I've got really good posture right
Yes,
now.
yeah, the contraption you have on there. Appreciate everybody's input. If you have anything else to share, please feel free.
Okay, so, sorry, on my computer, always, the internet disconnects if I'm not. So we're on TCA comments?
Sure.
Okay,
Someone help me with the,
oh, absolutely,
Oh,
give you something to lean on.
yeah.
you bet.
Do you, would it be more
Perfect, Mark.
comfortable?
You don't have to
to
stand
sit
if you're
down?
not-
No,
No, actually, I've been sitting for a long time, so I'm good.
Do you want to face the camera? Like, how do you want to?
No, I'm
You
perfect.
good? Okay.
Barely sees me. I'm good. I don't need anybody to see me. As long as they hear my voice.
Perfect.
All right, well, thank you again for allowing us the time. I do want to, before I start, there was a rumor swirling a little bit about why the association was attending tonight. We had a large gathering out there. And the rumor was that we were going to present you with a petition to request to go full remote. That's absolutely not true. We do not want to go full remote. We want to be at school. So I just wanted to clear that up. Just as, standing here, and I know there's community members listening, your teachers want to be at school. They want to be in person. So silly things happen when things start to get out. So just wanted to clear that up. There is no petition. We want to be at work. So, and again, as you know, I have a lot of time on my hands lately at home. So I did find a quick, really simple quote the other day that I thought just kind of sums up why our teachers were here tonight to support my comments. And it was, everyone, no matter whether they're big or strong, or they can always use a little help sometimes. And that's what we're here for tonight, is to ask for your help and your support, and go over an overview of the first 4 weeks of school. Of course, one of my teachers and I were having a long conversation the other day, and she mentioned that the brightest light of her day is the students, and that is absolutely true. And it made me feel good to hear that all the stress, the mental fatigue that everyone is going through, the students are the bright light, and that says a lot about our teachers and the situation they've been in. But over the last 4 weeks, just taking on that daunting tasks of keeping the building sanitized and doing everything in our power to keep that learning environment safe. We just realized that we just can't keep up that routine, can't sustain it very long. We thought, maybe this is going to be temporary, cleaning desks and sanitizing, but it's not going to be temporary. This isn't going to last a few weeks. This is going to last a long time. And all these extra responsibilities placed on teachers are taking time and energy away from educating our students. And our students deserve us, the teachers, and they deserve more of us. And the mental fatigue and the stress and anxiety is just getting at everyone. They deserve that excellent education that we give them, that they're accustomed to, whether we are in a pandemic or not. Our students deserve to have teachers that are able to create lasting bonds instead of having to sanitize desks and monitor restrooms and things like that. Our students don't deserve to have to stand in the hallway or sit in the hallway while their teachers are cleaning and getting things ready. They deserve to be in that room with their teachers. They just deserve more, and they also deserve to have teachers that have the time and the support to fill in those gaps that we have from being shut down back in March, along with providing some enriching experiences. Teachers want to be able to do that, but the stress and the mental fatigue is just causing the students or the teachers to just have the lack of ability to problem solve and strategize. And it's just been 4 weeks. So your district staff can't sustain this pace much longer. And we're here today to ask to see if we could have the board provide us with some extra custodial staff and educational aides, and even a business manager fill that position, because that could assist us as well. Our daytime custodial staffs, they're stretched thin. They're taking so long to clean the lunches, and it takes forever for the cleaning supplies to dry. So they're taking a long time, and teachers are having to help them clean the lunch tables while trying to monitor students. And the daytime staff, custodial staff, are also having trouble getting to those high touch areas and sanitizing. So many of our teachers have taken it upon themselves to sanitize some of the areas around their rooms, just to ensure that everyone stays healthy and safe. Our night custodians, they are also now expected to do the full sanitization of a building at the same time trying to clean. And I couldn't imagine them trying to get all that done. And some of our teachers are also taking upon themselves to sweep and remove trash and things like that. And the aides that we need additional aides because we do not have those parent volunteers any longer. Due to COVID, we can't have parents in the building. And so at the elementary level, the parent volunteers, they were there to help with the intervention, especially filling in the gaps that we have, and help with the enrichment of students, but they're no longer there for us. And so additional aides could assist teachers in closing those gaps and providing some support to all students. Along with that, the educational aides could help with the transition time, especially in the primary grades. If we had someone to help to even take students to the restroom and giving them their break while the teacher is teaching part of the class, that an educational aide could support them in their transition times. Socialization in the hallways is a big issue. We need to social distance the students, and having somebody there to assist that, even help sanitize computer labs and the related arts rooms, and those kind of things. And again, I know it sounds strange that we are asking for the business manager position to be filled, but it just comes down to putting so much on to Mr. Veerhoff and Mr. Stefanik and the head of maintenance, that we're starting to have some communication concerns. Just, we're all busy. And so and it's no fault of theirs at all. I think they've done a great job, but this confusion has caused and led to some working conditions issues that we've addressed with Mr. Veerhoff and Mr. Stefanik and the building administrators, and they have done a super job working with us on that. But filling that position could alleviate the stress on them and would definitely help with communication, definitely, with that and some consistency. And then, just as you know, I've said it, I think I say it every time, our teachers care deeply about our students. That's the one thing that I have to say, it's my 30 years of teaching, and 26 of those years have been in Tipp City. And there's a reason for that, because the teachers and the students are phenomenal, and parent support. And so these teachers want to give their very best, and the mental fatigue of just the everyday routines now are setting in, and they're not sure they could even get to the next October meeting. So that's why I came out from my injury and stood here tonight to talk with you, because it means so much to our staff that you hear what they're going through, and that we do need some additional staffing. So I thank you for listening, and if you need anything from me, please let me know.
Can we
Thank
ask
you.
some questions? We're allowed to ask questions.
I guess, sure.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for highlighting these things, because, I mean, that's common sense, but a lot of times you just get so tumbled up into the
Correct.
movement of everything, you forget. And as you were going through that, I mean, I can see how this would not only be stressing, but also demoralizing after a while, because you're fatigued and your emphasis is on teaching, not
Correct.
environmental, cleaning.
Yes.
But it's, so what, and I mean, I'm assuming this is happening in all the buildings?
It is, and I've addressed it with Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Veerhoff, and we're working through some things, but, and as I talked to them, I was in communication with Mr. Stefanik about possibly additional staffing to kind of relieve that. Because on top of not just cleaning, we have a huge shift in pedagogy happening. We're going from in-person, paper, pencil to a new digital world in education, and that on top of having to do these small little things are stressing.
So when you mention additional staffing, like what, I mean, like for each building?
Possibly, that would be something we could look at, because an extra night custodian that could sanitize while the other ones were cleaning. So then the teachers come in the room and the floor is swept and desks are cleaned and the trash is taken out. So that would just be an example of a custodial situation.
So are the teachers cleaning after every time the child leaves the classroom? They go to recess, they clean.
Correct.
They come back
Correct.
in, they go to lunch, they clean.
Correct.
So how does an additional custodian though help
with that portion.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be more of an aide, might be able to assist in that.
Okay.
But maybe a day custodian who does touch points in the building possibly, and maybe is able to sporadically hit some of the classrooms as well.
We also just got some information today that there is a product. And as soon as we get the FDA and the EPA guideline sheets for the product, it is one that you can go and you could spray basically all surfaces in a building, and it's supposed to maintain its disinfecting power for a month.
Whoa,
And so
there you go.
if-
They can pop it.
yeah, and it's food safe. And so if we can get those verification documents from the EPA and
Wow.
FDA, we will look into that, and it's part of a consortium purchasing.
The company that's using was Alpha or.
It's Alpha and Omega.
Alpha and Omega.
That's huge.
But did they
If you
say,
have a
did they
discount
say the
price.
Southwest?
Southwest Ohio EPC.
Yeah, the consortium, and so you get a discount price on it. And so we can purchase things a month at a time. And so if we can get that new spray, then every bell at the secondary schools, or every time the elementaries shift gears and transition from one activity to another, all of those responsibilities would be gone. And they said that you can follow up with touch point cleaning if you want to. So then that would be the one responsibility that would be on the day custodians, but then the teachers would have zero responsibilities for
So
that.
the children,
the
this is
hour.
not like transferable, they touch it and then they wipe their eye, or, I mean, that just sounds like pretty potent
That's
stuff.
that's why we're waiting.
And what about
For
the
the
smell
document.
of it? Is it gonna be
How long has this thing been around? I mean, if this was
Yeah.
so good, you would expect of it to make the marketplace by this point. I'm not sure that exposing our children to some cure-all is necessarily the answer here. That's-
chemical cure-all?
Yeah, I'm not wild about this solution. I think that looking at our needs and where we can add staff where needed is something that's worth discussing, obviously. But I'm not real big on just getting FDA. I mean, that just sounds.
Well, it's
How does it
currently
last a
being
month,
used
right?
for school districts across the state.
But it lasts a month and
Yeah.
it's edible or something? That's the
Everybody
one
thought
that's
Agent
crazy.
Orange was safe too, but you know, like at the end of the day, these are our children. They're our most valuable resource. And I don't want them to be guinea pigs.
And they thought ether was safe too when pregnant women were delivering their babies, until they found out there was a lot of.
And our teachers are gonna be in there with all those chemicals.
Can I ask about the no parent volunteers allowed? Who's deciding that? Is that a state thing, or is that anything the district has control over?
The district, has some control over, but what the recommendations are is you're supposed to limit your group size and your group composition. And so if you have the teachers that are in the building and the students that are typically in the building, and you're limited to that, then you're assuming that you're limiting the amount of outside factors that are coming into the building. And so that's why we have parents even now, their entry point is supposed to stop at the office. And so that they're not supposed to get into the interiors of the building. And the only thing that changes that would be a volleyball game at this point, in the gymnasium, but they're still supposed to come in at that point, the closest door to the gym, and just go from the entry point to the gym and then back out again. So
It sounds like, I thought that came from the Miami County Health District, that was one of their recommendations, that we limit.
yeah, their recommendations, there are no mandates that say you can't have any parent,
Correct.
volunteers in the building, but it's just,
Some recommended practice.
the parents do the extension out and they have their contacts wherever they're going, and they're coming back into the school. And so they're adding, extra factors, into the school environment. So we're trying to limit that.
And in the past, the parent volunteers, you might have 5 different parents in a week come in, and it may not be the same parents the following week. And just depended, it was whoever could volunteer their few minutes in the day to support us. And so that's not going to work with the recommendations, but having additional educational aides that could assist us in that kind of like we have our Title I 100 days, possibly having some support staff, educational aides for a limited period of time to assist.
Just doing extra reading with kids.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, the extra reading, the just filling in those gaps. I mean, looking at the data that we have seen, you know, they're not coming to us as where they would have typically been, no matter how hard we tried. It's difficult. It's difficult.
So Mrs. Younger, is the pressing of this, is that more on the need to help with the educational component, or is it more with the need to help with the cleansing component?
I would say it's a combination of both. I think if we had some kind of cleaning solution that could be put on so that the teachers wouldn't have to do it throughout the day.
And individually?
Correct, because, you know, what we have now takes, you spray it on, it has to sit for 5 minutes before you can wipe it off. And imagine just doing that here.
Right, that's ridiculous.
And then you got to go back through and wipe it off. Sometimes you might let it air dry, but, you
And
know.
you're corralling kids outside,
corralling,
they're
yeah,
wanting to get
right,
in, you have
Right, or you're
emails to
using your
check.
lunchtime, or you're using your planning time when we really need that. If we're going to be having a large number of quarantine students, we're working on, you know, a plan for that. So there's a lot going on in the day. That's not just cleaning, but I think the cleaning is probably the part that's taking a lot of the energy. And
Oh, yeah,
teachers see that I don't have time to talk to that one student.
right.
Because I've got to be cleaning and they shouldn't be in the room at the time, or they're moving from class to class. They only have 3 minutes to transition at the high school. So the teachers barely have time to get that cleaning in there without it affecting the teaching.
So just manpower would help.
Manpower is what we are looking for.
And what about even those lights? I'm sorry, but you know, they're hospital
Yeah, I
grade.
have two. I
You
bought them
have
after you
two,
brought it
and
in.
if we could get more, you know, so we don't reduce the
ones.
chemical stuff,
Yeah.
reduce the actual.
It should not be used. I know I have some staff members that have looked into that. That cannot be used with students sitting right there because they can't be looking at the direct light.
Right, no eyeball,
So,
no skin, no eyes, but
Right.
you could wave it over the desk, it's immediate, it doesn't have to dry.
But if you had to do that between periods,
Right.
that would be just as bad as spraying. I mean, it would be, the chemicals would be
Right.
there, but the time to
The
warm
time
everything.
and to hold it there for so many
Right,
seconds.
Exactly, yeah, it's the time. Teachers are willing to do anything, and I told Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Veerhoff this, we tend to just put things, we pile it up, we just keep piling and piling. And because we don't tend to want to ask for help, we'll just do it because we do it for kids. We do it for our students, and we don't think that we can make it much longer at this pace.
It sounds like it's time to probably do, 4 weeks in, time to do some
Yes.
assessment of what exactly are the
Yes.
supports that you're needing. I remember that we had a discussion in early August that I believe Mr. Stefanik said one of the, you know, assessments will need to be, do we need to look at a contracted cleaning company in addition to?
Yes,
And that might be something we need to revisit.
Yeah.
To put more resources in the schools so that school staff can do the jobs they're supposed to do.
yes,
And alleviate some of the burdens of these extra duties, because it's striking a balance. And so
Yes,
there's
yes.
compliance with COVID, and then there's teaching kids, and there's not enough time to do both, is what we're hearing
with
you
all the
say.
other little things of tracking data and preparing plans and, I mean, you name it, and contacting the COVID quarantine students, and parent-teacher conferences are coming up, and those will be virtual. So a lot of things that are different, and when things are different in our lives, it creates anxiety.
Well, there's a learning curve of how you have to redefine it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's also just a matter of maintaining stamina.
yes, yes,
And
exactly.
so what I'm trying to understand, I mean, I know it's probably variable with each grade, each
Yes.
building, but like in the elementary, do these kids sit at the same desk, the same spot for most of the day? or-
Yes.
So is it necessary to sanitize that after every
You
time
should-
they get up and go here and move there and come
I
back?
don't think if they were doing stations in the room, you would have to clean up after the stations. You know, there are some teachers that are still trying to do some learning stations with these students, so that's one thing. But if they go to specials, they may walk past someone else's desk and, you know, they like to put their hands over everything. So you can't keep that from happening. And so I believe that the teachers are always just being extra cautious and making sure that they wipe those down when they have some time during that.
Are we
It's-
using any acrylic barriers around it? Is that some, is that something that you favor or disfavor?
I think we have some teachers using some transparent curtain type situations in their classrooms. I don't think there's very many doing that.
These are those acrylic
Yes,
stands
Like
and they
the
put them
office,
on.
they're using
correct.
them in the front office and.
yes,
Still have to
exactly.
sanitize them.
I have
In the
not been told
library.
that any teacher actually has them in their
Yeah,
classroom,
in the
and I could be
library.
wrong on that. But I believe the teachers were using, the one teachers that have them are using the more transparent curtains, like a shower curtain that's clear. So, and I don't think all the teachers have those. I know I didn't put those in my room before the sun came in, so.
To me, the big need is, I'll just say middle school and high school, because they're changing classes every,
They're the biggest.
right, the middle school, I don't know what the time is, but you brought up a great point. At the high school, we only have 3 minutes.
Yes, I
So-
think there's 4 minutes at the middle school.
Okay, so
And
it's
then-
4, that's
yes.
not a lot of time.
And then LT Ball also switches classrooms as well.
Oh, I forgot about that. Every
yes, yeah.
period?
I don't know exactly their
Okay.
detail, how they do it.
But a couple
That-
times.
So
Okay.
they're cleaning,
Right.
and sometimes depending on their schedule, they don't get it all done before the kids need to come back, so the students are waiting in the hall.
Absolutely.
And they've got a work folder that they sit and use, but that's not the same as having your teacher. And it's just a way to give them something, constructive to do while they wait. But if we had some educational aids that could assist with that, that would be helpful.
I'll also reach out, if any of us have like friends in other districts, I would love to reach out to other schools, and maybe you've already done this, and say, what are you doing to get all this accomplished in 3 or 4 minutes, 8 times a day? That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll see what I can find out. We definitely, go ahead.
Mr. Stevens had said that they are using some of the product that's
Oh, is that what?
a month
Okay.
long or 90 days, and there's one product for 90 days, but not saying that that's something that we want to look
Right.
into either. I mean, we,
Aren't you still meeting routinely with Miami County superintendents? It seems like this topic would be, it's not unique to our district.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we want to pull our heads together and come up with a solution, because we don't want our staff burned out.
yes,
You're here to educate, obviously not clean desks. We all understand
Yes.
that. COVID has kind of put us all in this, in this situation together. And, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And most definitely, we want to give you the supports that you need, because that's why you're here, is to educate kids.
yes,
So-
thank you. Yeah, because we're in this together.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
I think from my perspective, there's, one, again, thank you for sharing this very important topic. It sounds like we definitely need to address it. I think that there's a lot of underlying questions I still think need to be answered. I would encourage that that's handled with you and the administration.
Mhm.
I think, to me, the questions that remain are, what are the cleaning requirements or tasks that have been thrust upon teachers? Why are those thrust upon? Is it part of a certain guideline that's been provided by the health department? Is it something the teacher feels is important to that specific classroom? Kind of get, I know it's not gonna be universal, but try to get as universal as we can for each building. Then understanding what we need to kind of help the teachers with, where can we provide support? And my suggestion would be that any solution isn't a silver bullet solution, especially involving chemicals that have not been traditionally used in our school district. And I'm not saying school districts in general, I'm saying our school district. I don't want to belittle the possibility of transmission through contact surfaces, but it's more aerosol-based transmission. And I don't want to expose our children to chemicals that have not traditionally been used in schools. I do not want to expose our teachers to chemicals that have not been traditionally used in schools to mitigate a lower risk transmission of a virus that is unlikely for most to be too severe. So I'm not saying that it's not an issue. Obviously, you gotta wear masks, you gotta be safe, you have to clean, but I don't want to, my suggestion, my preference would be not to try to use something that's going to be on a desk and allegedly kill something for 30 days that has not been traditionally used in our school district.
I would also agree that the teachers would say manpower is probably,
The number one.
would be what they
Absolutely.
want, so that we are not using something that is unknown, those kind of things.
Has there been any, and I understand, I'm not trying to put you, because you're not like the health expert, clinician, doctor, but has there been feedback or discussion among the teaching staff in terms of how necessary is all this repetitive cleaning? Is there like what Simon was saying, what can you weed out? I mean, what can you bring to not compromise safety, but at the same time free you guys up? I mean, what?
Yes, and we've had those conversations as educators. We are creature of habit, and we are ones who want to have somebody tell me to do this, and this, and I'll do it. And so they were doing what they were told. Now, I have talked to Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Veerhoff, and we did contact he did contact the Miami County Health Department, and we may be able to pull back some with that, which is very helpful. Still the academic need is there, especially at the elementary levels, and I don't want to say it's not there at the high school and middle school. I'm sure that some educational aids in that area would be extremely helpful as well. But someone to help that night's custodian, trying to get everything done, can't sanitize and sweep at the same time. There's just not enough time in the day. So I
So
know
extra resources for cleaning, but also just resources that are bodies
Yes,
to help with transition, to help with
Yes.
taking people to the restroom, to help accompany someone to the office,
yes,
to take someone to the clinic, to accompany people out to recess. So a teacher can help a student or can
correct.
transition for their, planning time. Maybe they have an emergency that they have to take care of.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
just a matter
being
of
happy.
having physical bodies
Yes,
to help coordinate transitions in the schools and the hallways, help get groups to specials, all those things.
absolutely. Yes.
Mr. Stevens, do we have funds available under CARES for this?
Nope, they're all gone. It's all gone. We bought technology for students and
So
teachers.
physical bodies, I mean, I'm trying to look at it from a multi-variable approach, not just if one thing's gonna help correct all this, but the volunteers, I mean, a body's a body, whether the person's volunteering or getting paid. I mean, is there any way we can help with reigniting our volunteerism with some consistency and some, I mean, I don't know, because it's a cost thing too, and
I'm not sure. I've had some parents say that they would help. They've helped in the past, but the contact tracing with that as well could, I mean, what if you had a volunteer that,
Well, it's easy to say, let's have volunteers, but you have to volunteer
Volunteers,
coordinator, and then the
mhm.
volunteer's still gonna go to the teacher or staff to look for direction, like, what do you need me to do, Mrs.
oh,
Younger?
absolutely.
sure, but
And whether we
there
will
is
actually have
manpower.
volunteers
Right.
that would be willing to do it because they'll be in close contact with students.
Right.
Whereas if you're an educational aide, that is your job. It's going to be
Have
your
an
responsibility to be close and you will, sometimes when it's an academic situation, you're going to be about 3 feet from them. Whether a parent's going to want to volunteer to do that and put themselves at that risk, I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, even with Project More, there are lots of volunteers that come in
Yes.
every single day just for that one specific program.
Yeah, and that program is gone, so all those students are not getting that additional support, which is a shame because it's vital to their success.
So Mr. Stefanik, can we entrust you and Mr. Veerhoff to work obviously with Mrs. Younger and we hear you, we are here to, I don't want to say serve you, but we're here to serve you. And we want to know that you're heard and that we're not going to just hear your comments and do nothing. So
Thank you.
can we work on that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Started.
Whether it's a party board update or whatever, but we trust that you and your team are going to try to,
Well,
get some movement on this.
we need to be responsive, and that means action. Like,
Right.
I heard you
Yes.
say, let's move forward with filling the business manager position?
Yes.
Can we look at support organizations like Upper Valley? They have, or Premier have said that they would give us some staff to help in specific settings for specific activities. Can we look at a contracted janitorial service in addition to, helping our janitors?
So Mr. Stefanik, will you get back to us on Friday in a Friday board update? That'd be great.
Good. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. I'm sure all the teachers, if they're still standing out
Oh,
there.
I hope not.
They might be,
Okay.
they might be. They're pretty determined that, to get it heard. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You know, bend over and do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Okay.
bend over to get that done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That was informative.
It was.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, I could have gone on and I won't. So,
And we could have too, but
yeah, because, our
It's
days
important.
filled. So, all right, thank you so much. I
thank you,
appreciate it.
Mrs. Younger.
Feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, so citizen comments. Tonight we have 2 citizen comments. The first one is from Karen Steinecker. I just wanted to take a moment to voice my appreciation of the teachers and administrators for their excellent work this year. They have been faced with many challenges, and I am impressed with their positive attitudes and resilience. I have personally witnessed their ability to think on their feet and make this year the best possible for our kids. With all they have on their plates, my son's teachers have taken time to encourage and inspire them. Both my middle school and high school students have never been so motivated to learn and achieve. I hope we never lose sight of the fact that this district runs on the backs of our teachers and administrators. We are so lucky to have them. I hope the board can find some way to let them know how much we value them. Thank you, Karen Steinecker. Dave, can you hear me okay? Was I muffled?
I can hear you.
Is that good? Okay.
Fine.
Second one. Dear Board of Education, I wanted to write a letter to express my extreme gratitude to the principals, teachers, staff, and nurses of our Tipp City School District. This needs to be a public statement to our entire community. The administration and staff of Tipp City School District pulled off a wonderful start of a school year and reassured our students and parents that they got this. I am so very thankful and want you to know how impressive it has been to witness what our schools have done with just 2 weeks of preparations and then these first 4 weeks of in-person school. Once the school reopening was in the hands of our teachers and administration, I decided to allow my senior to return to the school buildings for whatever experiences she could get this last year, while we placed our 2 middle school students on the PLP platform. My senior student had only the highest praise for her teachers and Mr. Zink on how well everything was being handled at the high school. She is so appreciative of the extra work her teachers and administration are putting forth to make this a possibility and such a positive one. Thank you. Her rave reviews made it impossible to keep this same experience from my 2 middle school students. The PLP platform was fine, not much more than that, but we could have made do for a semester. Thank you to Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Bearhoff for allowing our family to make a change quickly. But the middle school knocked it out of the park for making the change and extra work that added for them. Mr. Southers and Mrs. Tui were very accommodating and helpful when I know their hands were full. And thank you, teachers, for adding another student to your class. So, Board of Education, please know that your teachers and staff of our school district are amazing. Are they getting the support that they need? They have shown time and time again that they can handle with exceptional skills, even the biggest challenges. The weight of reopening the schools during a pandemic is behind us, but the weight of problem solving each day during this time is not. Can our teachers and staff keep up under this much pressure and weight? Why hasn't our school district hired someone as a facilities manager yet? Who is handling custodians, extra cleaning schedules, PPE, cleaning supplies, HVAC, and the many, many needs our buildings have at this time? Is this more weight on already taxed employees? Why haven't we hired a nurse for Nevin Kopic? Who is providing nursing care and charting for our little ones in our school district? From an article I was reading about successful and not successful reopening of schools across the nation, a teacher said her school was successful because they were given resources, money for PPE and electronics, and trust from their school board. She described it as a partnership. I'm not sure our school board displays trust in their teachers and staff, and I don't think our schools have the resources to keep up during this school year. When will it be too much? And how do we prevent that? Kudos to you, teachers and staff, for a very successful reopening of our schools. Karen Kavis. That's it for citizen comments. President comments. I will keep comments very short in the best interest of time. I had no idea what Mrs. Junker was going to discuss tonight under TCEA comments, but I just wanted to thank our students tonight, which was my original plan, and that aligns with what Mrs. Junker did tonight as well. I do want to applaud all of our students, kindergarten through 12th grade, for their adaptability, their resilience, their ability to wear their mask at school, to walk one way in the hallways. This year, they were not able to sit with their friends at lunch tables due to contact tracing. We had to assign lunch tables. I think of our kindergartners who are getting on the school bus for the first time, and they walk up those school bus steps, and they're so used to seeing their bus driver greet them with a giant smile. And that makes me really sad because, you know, you see the mask. So I think of all those little things, and I just think it's very, very appropriate to tell all of our students that, you know, as one board member, I'm just super proud of the way that our students have adapted to all of the COVID regulations this year, and just thank them for their resilience. So that's it for president comments. Dave, treasurer's report.
Attached, we have a copy of the financial statements for the month of August 2020. We can get a motion for the monthly financial report for August 2020.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded by Dunaway and Heatherly. Is there any discussion?
Any questions from the board on these financial statements?
Ready for a vote, Dave?
Dunaway,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Patrick,
So it should have been Dunaway, Heatherly.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes,
Patrick.
Abstain.
You seconded.
I seconded.
Yeah, it was
apologize.
Dunaway, Heatherly for the motion in the second.
Okay, thank you.
You're all right.
Okay, next item, we have the fiscal year 21 appropriation amendments.
Make a motion.
Thank you very much.
I'll second. Motion and second, Heatherly and Dunaway. Any comments?
Just to note,
Sorry, go ahead.
these are mostly adjustments for the student activity accounts that have turned in their budgets, a lot of sports accounts and high school accounts. There are some adjustments in here though for the transfers and just advances that are needed to the food service fund and the athletic fund. We'll talk about those later. But any questions on these appropriation increases?
Not a lot from our investments. It seems to be decreasing
Yep.
significantly.
We're down to 0.3% in interest. Still not 0.1 or 0.01, but I don't think it's far away.
That'll go up. It's election.
Ready for a vote, Dave?
Heather, oh gosh, who was the first? That was Heatherly and then
I believe it was Heatherly Dunaway.
it was
Okay.
Heatherly,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the list, looking to get a motion to approve the ORC 570541 purchase orders certifications for then and nows.
I'll make the motion for then and now.
Second, can I get a second? I'll second. Motion and second, Heatherly and Dunaway. Any comments or questions?
Is there an explanation?
Just,
I've never seen this one.
which one?
The Hamilton County
Banner.
Education,
That's tuition for a court placement student,
okay,
which is, they'll invoice us for the number of days that student's at their building.
okay,
Hamilton County, is that Cincinnati-ville?
yes. That's what I've
Yeah,
seen before.
Right. That's, okay, like the, yeah, I know the area.
Heatherly,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes,
motion carries.
Okay, and last but not least, I'm gonna hit save on that.
I'll make a motion for transfers and advances.
second,
Motion and second by Heatherly and Zakor. Are there any questions?
We'll let you get caught up, Dave.
Yeah, he's kind of typing away down there.
It was saying it didn't save, but I went back, it says it saved, so.
So transfers and advances, motion by Heatherly, second by Zakor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, these advances are being recommended to avoid a negative fund balance, which is recommended by the Auditor of State's Office that we do not let funds go into a negative balance. There were notes on the public content explaining that the food service, we're just waiting for the federal grant reimbursements to come in. Hopefully it'll cover all of those. For the 009 fund, we're waiting for some student fees to come in for the LT ball. And then for the athletics, we know that entry fees are down due to the limited number of spectators that can attend our events. As of right now, I think that it's currently down $50,000 from this point last year, and that's because we're not selling the
Passes.
season passes, correct. And so we know that athletics is really going to take a hit this year because they really depend on that revenue.
So the advance of $50,000 for our nutrition services,
Mhm.
this is awfully high.
Well, we're currently at 115,000 because we had a
I mean, I know
$65,000 advance earlier.
Well, I know we've done previous advances. That's why I think it's interesting that we're doing another advance.
The advance that we did in 2019, or I'm sorry, fiscal year 2020, we didn't make any money back. That was converted to a transfer in June.
Okay,
The $65,000 advance we're advancing now. I think the food service is also purchasing more food right now because of the additional lunches that are being served.
and then you can pick three.
Yeah, so right now, I'm just trying to make sure we don't run into a negative fund balance. I'm hoping that this will cover all of our expenditures in the month of October as well. And hopefully we can get our first reimbursement from the state and not have to do any more advances and claw our way back and hopefully get to the positive. So at the end of the fiscal year, if we do have money in the food service fund, we will advance what we can back to or return that advance to the general fund. Anything we can't return would be converted to a transfer at the board's approval. So just trying to look out for the future here for the fund.
I think we're ready for a vote, Dave.
All righty. Heatherly,
Yes,
Zakor,
yes,
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for treasurer's comments or treasurer's report.
Okay, that takes us to old business. Does anybody have any old business items? Okay, Mr. Stefanik, I have two quick items. One is something that got brought up tonight. Where are we with the Director of Operations position? You know how passionate I am about this. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me.
No. Well, we.
I ask about it every single week almost.
Right.
I don't want to break my track record.
Yes,
So
no.
where are we?
Well, we've got a direction. We've got a couple of possibilities, but the recommendation after checking with Helen, after talking with Dave and then checking with Helen, some of the folks that we're considering for that position do not have the credentials that were in the last posting.
Mhm.
And so the recommendation was to do a limited either internal or local posting for a short amount of time. And then, see what the interest is, inside of our district, and then we can move ahead with interviews and finalizing that position and move forward. Because we have taken on additional responsibilities here at the central office, and now that the school year is in full go, it is definitely needed to fill that position as we move forward into the fall. And so we think with a limited posting, we could have, a person, ready to roll inside the next 10 days to 2 weeks.
What do you mean by limited posting?
A limited amount of time, like you don't put it out there for a month. You put it out there for a short amount of time.
Right, but you said internal, so do you mean it's just a ZZ personnel listing? I guess I was confused on.
Well, the suggestion was internal or at least local, like a local position, so you don't put it out like statewide. You put it in a local.
Are you thinking like an interim position? Do we need to do an interim while you're searching for the right candidate?
Well, it's been 90 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say with this piece, if we can get it finalized in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, I think the people that have been taking on doing the heavy lifting can do that for another 2 weeks, and then we can finalize this, and then you wouldn't need an interim for the next 10 days or 2 weeks.
Or whoever you recommend then has to give notice. They have to be, all the processing of a new employee. Is there any interim posting that we need to do to cover some of these outlier duties that are, being picked up, by everyone else? I don't want to rush into that, but what are the critical duties that need to be covered in the amount of time while we're recommending and then, bringing someone on?
Well, it's been since July because, Gary took all of July off. So it's been July, August, September, that central office has been absorbing these duties.
Yeah, there's been four or five people that have been picking up pieces of the duties to move things forward.
So are you going to repost the job this week? Has it already been reposted? I'm sort of confused on
No,
that.
it hasn't been reposted
Okay.
yet. Just wanted to say what the direction we wanted to go until we can repost it as quickly as tomorrow.
One thing that we found out on our first go around was that the business manager requirement kind of gave us, I'll just say, a limited amount of candidates. So in your discussions with Helen, I don't know, but are we lifting that? Because that kind of restricted us?
Yeah,
Okay.
what we're going to do is we're going to take the requirements down away from the requirements for a full business manager.
Gotcha, that's kind of what I thought you
And
meant.
so you
Okay.
could have either a coordinator of operations or a director of operations.
Change the titles so that we have more flexibility. Okay, thank you.
And then more people would have a chance to apply for the position.
I appreciate that. So can you maybe just keep us abreast of where we are with that Friday?
Yep.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so not to
Oh,
interrupt
no,
you,
go for
but
it.
so did we have to do something with consent agenda to vote on that?
We're not there yet. We're still in old business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. No,
I thought you
it's
said
all
new
right.
business.
No, we're still,
Okay.
okay, so we're clear on that. My second question is, I'm telling you, Heather and I did not get together before this meeting, but everything that she brought up tonight was a question that I had in my mind. Currently, where are we with the 3 minutes between classes at the high school? Because this has been an ongoing conversation since August 27th. So, go ahead.
Well, the input that I've received from the high school is that the 3 minutes it was in place to try to minimize any congregation time in the hallways. So out of COVID, it was moving from point A to point B. And what we're hearing is that the teachers are being very flexible and not counting people tardy if they don't get there inside of the 3 minutes. And so the resistance to taking it back to 4 minutes or 5 minutes was that the students, for the students who don't need that extra minute or two to get to their next class, that it would enhance the amount of time that they were in the hallways, socializing. and they're trying to minimize that. But at the same time, with the drying time, of the spray on the desk, it's a 5-minute piece. And then we did hear from the teachers that, they either have to stop a couple minutes early for the second bell class, let's say, or they have to start the third bell class late, to give it the full 5 minutes to dry off. And so that's kind of the give and take on the 3 minutes or 4 minutes for passage time at the high school.
So I guess my follow-up question would be, who authorized this change and how did that come to be?
That was a recommendation when the lunch periods changed because they couldn't fit a full lunch period in the cafeteria. When the lunch periods expanded, the time between classes was limited. And it was a COVID decision, at the building level.
So typically, the school board approves the student handbook in the spring, and the bell schedule is in that student handbook. So my biggest concern is, female students do not have enough time to change a tampon between classes. If you have 3 minutes to change your tampon, wash your hands, and walk to class, that's probably not going to happen. And I feel like it's unfair for our female students to sit down in class and then raise their hand and say, can I use the bathroom? And then when you have to get up with your purse, everybody kind of knows what's going on. And as a female, it's just something that should be private. It shouldn't be announced to the whole class why I have to use the bathroom. I just feel like it was inconsiderate. And I also don't think it's right to take educational time away from our students. When we instruct our students to go to the bathroom during educational learning time, I have a real issue with that. If students are lingering between, in the hallways, it's easy to say, hey, Bob and Sally,
Get to class.
get to class. So I would rather have people trust our students to not congregate in the hallway and give our female students the dignity and the self-respect to use the bathroom and not announce to the world why they're using the bathroom. That should just be a given.
Maybe I can make a recommendation that if there is anything else that's been deviated in the student handbook that we approved back in March or April,
Thank you.
that may then be different now because of our practices in COVID, and we expect them to continue to stay modified going forward.
Right.
Maybe we need to look at modifying the student handbook and have everybody reissue it and receive it again. So that this isn't the only topic related to this.
Right,
There are
yeah,
other
exactly.
issues.
It was backpacks, it was lockers. We went against board policy, we went against the student handbook. I had reached out several times to see if we could, Joelle and I even suggested, instead of reprinting the entire student handbook, doing a 1-page revision, like an insert that went on our webpage and to every parent. But in my opinion, the 3 minutes between classes is not effective. And I think that people deserve their dignity and their private time. So that's it.
I would like to echo Mrs. Dunaway's thoughts as well, from not only the practicality of the movement during that 3-minute period. I'm concerned about some of these unilateral decisions that are just being made and executed without board input on this. Because where does it end if that's what it looks like now? Where's the end point on this on other things? As far as going from 4 minutes to 3 minutes because of trying to minimize socialization, well, one reason these kids come back to school is because they need that socialization. When you're at the middle school and high school, they no longer go out and play on the playground. It's well documented that often hallway time is like equivalent to their recess. It's a way to decompose, decompress, whatever. And I don't know that there's any studies that have shown if you go from 4 minutes to 3 minutes, it increases the transmission of COVID. So this is a lot of conjecture, and I just feel that the whole thing was mishandled. I hope it doesn't happen again.
I'm not sure if it's really, the board's input on how to operationalize how the school operates as far as transitioning, whether it's 3 minutes or 4 minutes or
Well, it's in the
how
handbook
they,
that we
right,
approved, right?
my bigger issue is if we're deviating from the handbook,
Right.
let's
Yeah, that's
reissue what needs to be changed and put whatever new rules are in effect and have them reissue those parts. I don't want to tell you what those parts are because I don't know how that operates within the school, but it seems like we need to get those rules in alignment
Mhm.
with whatever we approved last March or May or whatever. I guess.
Because if this is the case, then what's the purpose of an approval process?
Right.
What is the function of that?
Well, things have changed since we approved it initially. We didn't even know that, how those
understand that,
pragmatics would be
Joellen, But it's the
executed.
principle behind the necessity to approve something.
Right, the fact that the board did not know about the backpacks, we didn't know about the lockers, we can't allow for building principals to go outside of policy without bringing it to the superintendent of the school board. That's why we have policy, so that's it.
Yeah, so any revisions to the handbook would be brought here to be approved. And if they're not approved, then we'll revert back to the handbook.
Right,
I guess my concern is not so much with approval, but just reissue it so kids know what the rules are. They know what to
they're
expect.
dealing with. Okay. Very good.
okay, moving on to new business. So we have our new format, which is our consent agenda. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded by Mrs. Zakor and Mrs. Heatherly. Any comments or questions?
We do need to make one amendment
Oh, go for it.
to the supplemental contracts in the attachment, the auditorium supervisor and the high school club drama position for Candace Jasinski. They're both listed as different. They need to be step ones, both of those. So I'm just asking that we make that change to that job position.
So we don't need an amendment or a motion for that, right, Dave? You're just, Mr. Stefanik, since you've done these before, does he just,
It's currently,
no, it's wrong on the thing.
it says level 1, step 2.
It needs to be step one.
Okay.
And then the high school drama club position needs to be step one as well.
Okay.
Mr. Stefanik, because you've done these in your prior, how does this like officially work? Does Dave just do what he just did? Or do we have to do it a different way?
I've seen it done both ways.
Okay,
If it's the board's pleasure and they're okay just with those step changes in the chart, you could say that, just you go with those, with the amended chart and you leave it all in the consent agenda.
okay.
But I believe that if you change anything, then that item gets pulled out, it gets voted on separately, but it's been done both ways.
I'm fine with leaving it in just because it was such a minor thing. Is the rest of the board okay with that?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the corrections recommended by Mr. Stevens
There you go.
for the advisor positions, moving them from whatever step they're listed to step 1.
That's a great way to handle it.
Because there were
Do we
three
need a
different,
second?
there were three different numbers.
Angie Cord, do you still want a second?
Sure. No, I motioned, I think.
Well, the originally,
Oh, yes.
So there's a new motion. The new
Right,
motion
right.
is to
Right.
accept the consent agenda with the recommended corrections
Right.
to the advisors.
and Angie,
Second,
okay.
yes.
So motion and second by Heatherly and Zakor. Are there any other comments on the consent agenda? Dave, any other corrections?
That was the only one.
Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
motions carry. Mr. Stefanik, do you want to do new business?
I sure can.
Okay, it's all you.
The first item on our new business is the recommendation of Title I teachers. And before I read that, Mr. Beerhoff, did we make the revision to this yet or not?
We've not.
Okay. If I could ask for a motion for approval of the following Title I teachers for the 2020-21 school year, pending proper certifications and paperwork.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, Dunaway and Heatherly. Any discussion?
Mr. Beerhoff?
We would need to remove the candidate for the Broadway Title I reading position. That candidate accepted a long-term teaching position for the remainder of the school year. So we'll have to go back to our second and third candidates.
Just for board information, our title positions are for 100 days. 110 days, and I believe the rate is $100 a day. So we have a position that is about $11,000, and a full-time teaching position is in the vicinity of $30,000 to $35,000. And so when this teacher got the offer for a full-time position for the remainder of the year,
Yeah, you can't blame them.
she couldn't pass that up.
So it's still priority though to fill the vacancy.
Oh, yes, yes.
So do we need a new motion to
Yeah, exactly, because we took off,
accept the, let's see, I'll make a motion that we approve Title I teachers, Morgan Wrench and Lydia Turner.
Thank you.
Did I say that wrong?
Linda Turner.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda Turner. Sorry, Linda.
I'll second that, Joellen. So we have a motion and second by Heatherly and Dunaway. Any further discussion? Okay. Dave, whenever you're ready.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dunaway.
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes,
great, motion carries.
Okay, item B, classified staff. Approval to hire the following classified positions for the 2020-2021 school year, pending proper certification and paperwork. And the employees are listed there.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second by Dunaway and Heatherly. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's none, Mr. Stevens?
I missed that. Who was that?
Dunaway.
Dunaway and Heatherly.
Thank you. Okay. Are you ready for a vote? Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes,
motion carries. Mr. Stefanik,
Okay.
item C.
Item C, approval to hire the following classified position for the 2020-2021 school year, pending proper certification and paperwork. And before the motion, I'd like to revise and change step 10 to step 3.
I'll make a motion.
Joellen, motion. Can I get a second?
second,
Motion and second, Heatherly and Zakor. Is there any discussion?
This is for the Nevin Kopic
Yes.
nurse position.
Yeah, that's what it says, step 3.
Big
so it's step 10.
priority.
well, it says nurse aide,
Her qualifications far exceed that. I think we're very lucky to have her.
Very cool.
Yes.
so what does that, I saw that, we are, but I'm confused, why is she a nurse aide?
Like, how did it go from a 10 to a 3, right? Is that,
Oh, no, well, the
Step
10 or the 3 is based on work experience.
oh, gotcha.
And so that's number of years in it. The
Oh,
position advertised was a nurse aide. We're lucky that we got a
Nurse.
full.
Just
our-
the quality.
full our-
Yeah, we got a bonus.
Yes,
We got a
yes.
bonus.
And so that's great for us. But since it was posted as a nurse aide position, that's the classified position that we're hiring.
And so that's what the pay is in that, okay, wow,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's a deal.
any further comments? Mr. Stevens, ready for a vote?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
motion carries.
Item D. Two policies, approval of new policy PO 2266, Title IX, and revised policy PO 3220, standards-based teacher evaluation. Recommended both of those policies for second reads. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Second,
Motion, second, Dunaway, Zakor. Are there any comments or discussion? I mean, we discussed it at our last meeting when we had the first read, so I think we pretty much hit everything that we need to hit. If there's no further discussion, we're ready for the vote, Dave.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Zakor,
yes,
Heatherly,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, item E. Approval of two memorandums of understanding with the Tipp City Education Association, implementation for PLP and OTES process for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion seconded by Dunaway and Heatherly. Any discussion? Ready for the vote, Dave?
Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes.
motion carries. Item
Item
F.
F,
Well, yeah, so Mrs. Dahl isn't here, so we'll just table this. Is that okay?
that'd be fine.
So we just one motion.
No, there's no action on this. It's just a discussion.
Well, Mrs. Dahl isn't here, so we're gonna table it.
Table this.
Okay.
Did you want to talk to the other board members about what it was, or
What's the
you just
issue?
want to wait?
There's no issue. We, the library board has their, their board of directors. And the library reached out to us that one of the board members,
re-upped.
yeah, correct,
Re-elected.
correct. So we've never had this happen to us as a board. So we're just,
I think it's just acknowledgement that there is no change, but typically they do have new board members and they usually just as a courtesy share that information with us.
right. So, okay, I don't see any, I only had 2 citizen comments tonight. So the second half of our citizen comments will be nothing. Okay. Upcoming meetings. The next work session will take place at 6 p.m. on October 12th, 2020 at the Board of Education to discuss survey results. The next regular board meeting will take place at 6 p.m. on Monday, October 26th, 2020 at the Board of Education office.
What survey results are you referring to?
I don't know. I was gonna ask that too.
Does anybody know?
Say that again.
Mr. Stefanik, survey results? I didn't know what that meant either.
Where is that?
Our work session, what survey results? I didn't know that. I thought Mr. Stefanik knew what it was.
No, I didn't type that in there. I don't know what that means.
Okay,
So
well, we
maybe
have a work session regardless. We'll figure out the topic.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth,
What
I'm
is this
wondering,
survey?
well, I don't know, was there something you were surveying last year? And maybe it was in the
No.
minutes from last October?
No,
Was there something about facilities or
We-
anything?
no.
Okay,
I'll reach out to Corinne, maybe but I can't think of anything.
It was last year. I pulled up last year's board meeting. And October 21st, 2019, we discussed survey results. So this is just a copy
What
paste
survey?
issue.
What survey results?
I could look it up, but it was probably a facility survey.
Okay, interesting. Well, regardless, we'll
Yeah.
figure out what the topic is.
So
For the work
yes,
session?
topic to be determined later.
yeah.
Exactly.
Ms. Dunaway, on the October 26th meeting, can I make a reminder
Yeah,
comment?
sure.
That we were going to look into
Yeah.
possible other venues.
Yes.
So we might be able to have some audience participation live at the meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Zakor, for following up with the health department. And we're trying to find a way to get our meetings back where we can have social distancing, 6 feet apart. And there's been some kind of back and forth on how we can do that and still follow guidelines. So we are working through that, but we will definitely give the public ample notification on where that will be. Depending on, I know you guys are working on the technology piece and where we're gonna hold it. So the sooner we can establish the location, the better. And we'll get that out to everybody. Anything else on upcoming meetings? We good?
Perhaps if we don't have anything for the agenda for the work session, we might consider canceling it.
Well, I'm sure we have plenty to talk about, but we'll kind of figure that out. Anything else? Anybody? No? Okay. So right now, the board is going to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G5 to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes. The board does not anticipate any action, and we are inviting Mr. Stefanik into the executive session with us.
Do you need a motion to
Yep.
adjourn?
I do need a motion. Am I getting a motion?
I'll make
A motion to go into executive
Okay.
All
session.
motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded by Heatherly and Zakor.
Heatherly.
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Dunaway.
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
thank you. And Dave, can we take a 5-minute recess while you do all your, okay?
Yep.
And you don't anticipate any action.
can't flush.
One more time, what?
I said the camera's coming back.
Yes.
I
We
can't
are back
flush.
on.
It's still blue. Is it supposed to be blue?
Yep.
Okay, so it is 9:52 and I'm declaring.
8:52.
Oh, yeah, hey, that's nice. It is, we got done early. It's 8:52. I'm declaring us back in regular session, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
One second.
Motion and seconded by Zakor and Heatherly. Ready for a vote, Dave?
Zakor,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
meeting adjourned.